Let's bring in Niall Stanage from The Hill. Niall, how bad is this for the president politically? I mean, are Democrats concerned? Should there be any concern about whether this would affect a re-election campaign? Or is this just something that will blow over because, frankly, it's not that big a deal?
It's very bad politically, and I think the question of whether it will blow over, Adrienne, gets to the fact that there are unanswered questions, and quite a lot of them in this matter. So it won't blow over while those questions are hanging out there about the length of time before this was disclosed, about the second batch of documents. There is just a lot here that we don't know. And to your point about the political side of this, that is a very important distinction to the legal side. Politically, this takes a lot of the sting out of Democratic attacks on former President Trump for his conduct in relation to apparently classified documents at Mar-a-Lago.
And that's something I haven't heard a lot about, but you're right. It definitely changes the context by which we have these kinds of discussions. And interestingly enough, President Biden said he was surprised to learn they were at his office. I'm sure, I mean, he has been busy with some of the biggest tragedies of human history since being in office. He doesn't know what's in them. What surprised me was that he said his attorneys didn't advise him to ask what was in them as they returned them to the archives. But with a second batch of documents, do you believe the American people will believe him or his attorneys? I mean, will they? Obviously, you can make demands, but what is the president expected to do, and what is he supposed to do in a situation like this?
Well, he would note that these documents, when they were recovered, were returned promptly to the National Archives. However, that doesn't really resolve the political problem at all. I just want to stress one point that I think is really central here, Adrienne. We know the first batch was discovered on November the 2nd. The issue is not just that all that time has passed. The issue is that November 2nd was 6 days before the midterm elections, and that was not disclosed to the public. Now, that is something where if President Trump had done that, a lot of the people in politics and media who are minimizing this Biden matter would have been howling from the rooftops about it. And that delay has not been adequately explained yet, and that is where a lot of the potential, in my view, for political damage arises.
And that is why we have so many certainly howling about a double standard in Washington. Thank you very much, Niall. Good to see you as always. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.